This video is brought to you by Tabletop Table. So I moved and got an office like a responsible adult. The only problem is I move around this space a whole lot, and taking a table in and out of this room is quite a hassle, but luckily, I got a fold-out one. Well, the problem with that is that it's my only table for both making videos and playing TTRPGs. Luckily, I can use Tabletop Table to expand the space that I have without it taking up too much space of its own. Tabletop Table adds another layer to your gaming or eating or whatever else table. With two different designs, Tabletop Table looks to elevate your gaming experience while creating more private space for your players' snacks, drinks, minis, or whatever else they may be hiding. Tabletop Table allows for a quick and easy build-up and teardown of any game night, and when it's over, just lift it off. No screws, no stress. Your regular table's back like nothing happened. It also comes with a custom travel bag for when you're playing a TTRPG out while camping or while bringing it to a friend's house. There's still time on Kickstarter to check out and reserve your very own Tabletop Table, and check it out at this link right here. Thank you, Tabletop Table, for sponsoring this episode. Stranger Things, Honor Among Thieves, Baldur's Gate 3, and a whole new rule system. Not only is Dungeons & Dragons thriving, it is setting itself up to be the most popular that it has ever been in its life. And we're just getting started, is what I was saying last September. And with the first ever book to accompany the new rules coming out in just a couple of weeks that no one is talking about, and even my community, which is mostly Dungeons & Dragons based, some Magic the Gathering to be fair, has no idea it is coming out. So what has happened? Is D&D falling off? Is Wizards cooked? Why are so many people leaving Wizards in the first place? I think we should talk about it. So this long form video is going to be a little bit different than the stuff I usually make, just because I wanted to bring attention to the thing that I think all of us have kind of felt or noticed, or haven't really noticed but subconsciously noticed, is that things have slowed down across this past year. So here are a couple of my thoughts, concerns, and ways I think Wizards can capitalize on the dying hype out of the absolute stellar years we just had coming out from this IP. So here we are, a couple months after the 2024 rules have now dropped, and there's been a lot of conversation about how both these rules impacted the community and Wizards financially. So let me preface something. Some of you guys in the comments might be asking me for a source on some of the statements that I make in this video, and a lot of that will come from the success of the 2024 rules, and I have it on good authority that it was in fact the highest selling book that Wizards has ever released for Dungeons & Dragons. And I also have it on good authority that some of those numbers may be grabbed from data that wasn't grabbed from previous years and other books that were sold in 2014. But what I can tell you is source, trust me. And there's nothing that emphasizes the little hype around D&D books more than another Wizard IP, Magic the Gathering. I remember when Aetherdrift dropped, people were already talking about the next 2 to 3 sets, and that had not even released yet. Not only is the new book coming out in a couple of weeks, but the entire yearly lineup has already been announced and no one's talking about it. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one being that the marketing is really lacking for a lot of these books. As a person whose job it is to make sure to keep up with Dungeons & Dragons, there are numerous times where I will look through modules and all of a sudden another one will pop up out of thin air. The other thing is that the next book is an anthology. And it's about dragons, which is fine. Dragons are cool. It's Dungeons & Dragons. I'm sure this anthology will have both. It'll live up to the name. But can we please just get another campaign? We have already had releases of short adventures come out for the new rules for people to play. So why aren't we making a new campaign? I think the answer should have been to make a full-length campaign to accompany the new rules. Anthologies are great. I think they're super fun, but every playgroup I've ever been in prefers a campaign more than an anthology. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of cool stuff in anthologies. The train heist in Keys to the Golden Vault was awesome. The 1960s space module inside of Infinite Staircase was really cool. It's hard to get hyped about something that only has the content of 20 to 30 pages. I think if the best D&D module ever made was 20 pages inside of an anthology, it would be swept under the rug because people just prefer campaigns more. And I can think of a couple reasons why the next campaign is so far down the road, and I think it really boils down to the fact that Hasbro is having a hard time figuring out how to monetize Dungeons & Dragons better. I can feel us losing this momentum because making these books is expensive, especially if it's a campaign and you need a good group of well-known writers that know what they are doing. And it's not like the next Magic set that is meta-defining and every single player needs to get that set because not everyone has to get the next book. And I think it's time to bring up something I don't hear anyone else talking about, Adventurers League, the Wizards-endorsed public play that you can find at your local game store, is running out of things to play. Vecna Eva Ruin was a little too high level for Adventurers League, which is fine. That shouldn't deter us from making tier 4 content. I love high-level D&D play. The thing is, the next preceding book was an anthology and could also be finished pretty quickly, which leaves a lot of game stores either having to replay modules or find something that they have not ran yet. Which, replaying adventures is not the worst thing in the world, but then you get a lot of metagaming, and then a lot of stuff is spoiled, so it's not as exciting as the first time around. And also, if we're looking to play the 2024 rules, it does not work with 5th edition adventures. It is just not balanced well. Like, the players are way too overpowered. And waiting until late 2025, 2026 for a new campaign makes me a little worried about the health of Adventurers League, of public play. I made a whole video about Dungeons & Dragons and its identity, and you should check that out, but one thing I missed talking about was the super cool setting of Eberron. And quick little history lesson, Wizards put out this fantasy setting search contest. Keith Baker won it with the world of Eberron, and that's where we get cool things like the Artificer, things like Warforged and whatever. And there's actually going to be a new book coming out preceding this next Dragon anthology, which no one, of course, is talking about or knows about, but it's an expansion. It's more rules for the 2024 rules. And yes, there's campaign hooks and settings, and I'm sure a lot of people use that, and it's super cool, but it doesn't live up to its hype. If there was a full campaign inside of Eberron, how cool would that be, right? And I have to say, if the Artificer isn't in the player's handbook that just came out, and a couple months later, we now have this Eberron expansion adding the Artificer, it looks a little bit like a cash grab. Get back into the monetization aspect of this. In my opinion, it looked like Wizards was super hyped to make their new virtual tabletop sigil, and, that's where they'll make the battle pass, which is a whole nother thing, and, the deluxe edition of the books came with a little golden dragon mini and whatever. And then I remember just scrolling through Reddit, and it was dead on arrival. I mean, the entire team, for the most part, was laid off. And I remember looking through the comments of that, and everyone else was kind of in the general consensus of like, when did this, how is it, where did everyone go? I didn't realize it was out. And it just adds to my tinfoil hat conspiracy that everything is now made to sell on D&D Beyond. This is why the Artificer class is coming out in a different book, because then you have to buy it so that you can use it in D&D Beyond. If you have a new campaign and it doesn't add any new subclasses or classes or races or ancestries or whatever, then you don't have to buy it because everyone's buying it on D&D Beyond. Only the Dungeon Master has to. But if you want a certain class, which is the players, then you have to buy a new book on Then you have to buy a new book on D&D Beyond, all right? Jeez. With all that being said, I am saying I'm a little bit worried about the current state of Dungeons & Dragons. We had Honor Among Thieves, Stranger Things is on its final season, and Baldur's Gate is not getting a DLC, as far as we know. Okay, as far as we know. And none of that actually pointed towards playing the actual physical tabletop role-playing game. We had the hype for 2023 Dungeons & Dragons, but we don't have a campaign set after the movie Honor Among Thieves. We don't have a Baldur's Gate 3, what the Karlach DLC maybe could have been as an actual book. We didn't make anything for the actual tabletop role-playing game except new rules, and now it's whispers in the wind. So, these are some things I would like to see to have actual hype around playing the game of Dungeons & Dragons as opposed to the idea of Dungeons & Dragons. We need to care a little bit more about Adventurers League. A lot of people don't know what it is, and the people running it have nothing to play. We should have promotions, play calendars, and rental books, as well as a new part of D&D Beyond that makes it easier to track Adventurers League. It helps managers organize Adventurers League, and it seems like an open option for new players to come and try out D&D. Okay, all right, hear me out. We have to re-release Strahd, okay? I know we can, make a collector's edition, right? Comes with a full bust of Strahd. You can put on your fireplace, and, if you get, $500 more, you can give them Big Nat. A brain-dead, obvious idea, right? Let's, continue the story of Baldur's Gate thing, the extremely popular video game centered around Dungeons & Dragons and lore. Maybe that's the best thing we can do in this situation. Make the Karlach DLC. Make what happens after the campaign. It doesn't even have to revolve around the characters, maybe be like, oh my god, I ran into Will in the new book. It doesn't matter. We haven't done anything. Can we please make some kind of overarching stories for the campaigns, please? Nothing with the obelisk, nothing with maybe this is connected in some way. Can we literally have it so that all of them connect in some important way and even have like certain big books come out where everything comes together, like, you know, the Avengers Endgame? Wow, I'm really speaking the corporate entertainment language. I'm talking about remakes and endgames, right? Okay, Hasbro, get me in the room. Get me in the room. Okay, jokes aside, I am a teensy-weensy little bit nervous about D&D falling off, right? Listen, TTRPGs are always going to be around. It is inherently human of us to be storytelling animals, and tabletop role-playing games are a great medium for all of us to get together like around a campfire and tell a story, right? TTRPGs are not going anywhere. But I have to acknowledge that if we don't do anything, Dungeons & Dragons hype is going to slow down. And it's kind of my job and my passion and what I love the most out of anything in the world, okay? One last thing I want to talk about is that I am very excited for Daggerheart. In full transparency, I was on Critical Role. I know those guys. Go watch my Suikoden one-shot. It's very fun. And I know the designers of the Daggerheart team, okay? But I cannot review it at this time because I have not run a full Daggerheart campaign and will be doing that in my home game, yada, yada, yada. That's besides the point. But it is so refreshing to have a team that is so transparent about how their design works, about what is on the horizon. And they're just so excited to talk about the game. And I think Wizards is, but I don't know if Hasbro is. And it's just exciting in the sense of like, light will be shown on Daggerheart, on Pathfinder, on other TTRPGs, Aliens, you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Cyberpunk Red, the other Cyberpunk one, all the other ones, Pirate Borg, shout out Pirate Borg, that's super cool. Turning too much into the podcast, I'm sorry. But without the excitement of all this other tabletop role-playing game stuff, I would be much more worried. But that's it. That's the rant. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on D&D and people leaving Wizards and, you know, how things have slowed down. And I want to know what you think. I want to know what the community thinks. And that's a main reason why I made this video, you know? What is on the horizon for D&D? Do you think that it's just a lull after making new rules and things will spike back up? Will the cursed Strahd bust be on your fireplace? Who knows? I have some other long-form projects coming up, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. The podcast is returning, so be ready for when that drops. Thank you all for the support. It has been a super busy, crazy, hectic month, and I just really appreciate everyone sticking by me. More cool stuff on the horizon, and I will see you later. Lamar Jackson, edit.